What's up, everybody? It's Dan from Bourbonsauced. We've got MB Roland for you guys this week. We also introduced them to Whiskey Grail. They're an affiliate of ours. We paired up with them. They make these great vessels, so be sure to try them out yourself. Go to whiskeygrail.com. Also, MB Roland, great juice. Barker's Mill, it's their bottle and bond. Let's get into this interview. Cheers. All right, so I'm Dan.
I'm Ryan.
And this is Bourbonsauced. We're blessed to have both Mary Beth and Paul here from MB Roland. Thank you guys so much for inviting us here and your hospitality. So far, everything's been terrific. We got to taste some of those goods out there in the Rick House. Thank you so much for that. So you guys want to introduce yourselves individually and give us a little backstory about where you each came from?
Okay. Mary Beth Tomaszewski, actually the Roland, the MB and the Roland part of the business name. Roland is my maiden name. So we kind of like to joke that when we started the business, Tomaszewski wasn't exactly the best name for a whiskey or a bourbon. Suited more of a vodka, and that's not what we're doing. Anyway, I'm actually from Adams, Tennessee, right across the state line.
Okay.
Home of the Bell Witch, if you've ever heard of it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So if the witchy temperament kind of comes out, I'm sorry.
That's all good. And Paul, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from the New Orleans area, small town called Pearl River, Louisiana, and I got here through Fort Campbell, as many of us do in this area, and found that I really liked the area a lot and wanted to start a distillery. Imagine that.
Yeah, you know, that's one of those things when you're in the military, you get used to drinking, and then why not create your own stuff? That way you don't have to keep paying the big distilleries for your habit, if you want to call it that. So
Pretty fair.
you guys have been here for a hot minute, and you guys just opened that new Rick House, which is beautiful. Thank you for letting us go tour that.
Thank you.
And you guys got some extra stuff for us to try out.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. What do we got here?
We've tried a lot, but I wanted to kind of hit on three things that are pretty standard for us, or somewhat what we've been known for. Start with our flagship bourbon, which is a blend. So it's 78% white corn, 17% rye, 5% malt. And this is going to be a blend of a few barrels as opposed to a single barrel. And barrel proof at 106.7.
Just a hair.
There you go.
Thank you.
It's a little early to be drinking, don't you?
Well, you know, I had
Just a
it
hair.
for breakfast, so I need to be careful here.
Just a hair, not two.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
My pappy used to say that.
What's
Say
that?
just a hair, and he'd be like, "You sure you don't want two?"
And the this one is like, it's the one we started making day one and filled the most barrels, and we've got other things that we filled too now, weeded bourbon, dark fire, etc. But this is kind of the one that we started everything for us.
So this is with the dark fire corn?
No.
Oh, this one's not with the dark fire.
It's
Okay.
just with the white corn.
Just the white
Food
corn.
grade white corn.
Okay.
And you get those real dark fruit flavors in that one that are kind of indicative of pot distillation and white corn. At least that's where I believe they're coming from on the flavor.
So Mary Beth, how did you get roped into the bourbon industry?
Temporary case of insanity.
Oh, okay.
Now, when Paul mentioned starting the distillery, I honestly thought he was joking. I really did not anticipate he really did want to start a distillery. It wasn't just a flying passion. So he did all that work, all the licensing at the time. I mean, we've got pictures of the application, and it was about this thick sideways. So I thought, you know, if he's willing to go through all of that to get all this stuff together, then the least I can do is support him.
That's very awesome. That's a very terrific wife you've got there, buddy. To be able to support your habit like that.
That's why it's named MB Roland.
That's right.
Established in 2009. Did you hunt for property? Like, how did that go? Finding the right place.
Well, I put together a business model. I was finishing up my last year in the Army, and I had to run down to Fort Benning at the time it was known as Fort Benning, and spend a year down there, and Mary Beth stayed here. And while I was there, because I was by myself, I used a lot of my spare time to develop the plan and really prove it, talk to a lot of people that could give us some insight or some guidance on things. But there wasn't a lot out there about how you start a distillery.
Not in that time,
And so
especially not for someone of our size.
No,
Mhm.
and so a distillery of our size was quite literally, you just kind of figure it out and you build it as you see what is successful. We knew we always wanted to make our own juice. We didn't want to source anything. It was less about being a brand and more about making good, unique whiskey, and in our case, pre-prohibition style whiskey. And when I looked at, or rather when I was here, and I was being here, right here on the state line of Kentucky and Tennessee, I went and toured all the big distilleries in Kentucky as well as the few at the time in Tennessee, and just kind of took everything in and thought about everything, and thought about it from the perspective of, before Prohibition, there was 2,000 distilleries. After Prohibition, there were 6. And so we lost all of our restaurants. We lost all of our flavor variations on American whiskey production. And the product has changed since then as far as the standards for producing the product and the techniques and the equipment and everything. And the grain's changed immensely through industrialization over the years. And so the idea was to go back to before all of that happened. So we've got the pot distillation, the localized grain, particularly the white corn, and low barrel entry proof, and just very full flavor. That's what we're trying to do for all of our whiskey.
Well, this one was pretty easy going down.
For 107 proof.
For 107 proof.
Yeah, it goes
But I
down
think it's
smooth.
because we did the barrel up proof already, where we kind of fired up the palate a bit.
Yeah.
I think those were probably sitting closer to like 120-ish.
It just makes me think of the song "Let Me Down Easy."
Yeah. But that one's, you can taste a lot of the corn in this one for sure.
Mhm.
It's really delicious.
And see, that's intentional. A lot of times, especially on the consumer side, you hear, well, it's very corny. It's
Mhm.
not aged long enough. And that would be a mistake to assume that on ours, because that corn is a food grade, it's white corn, it's intended to shine.
Right.
So.
And it
that's
does
what
that for sure.
Mhm.
It is very present, which shows that you guys took very good care of how you're trying to create your distillate and produce it and present it to your consumers. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We try.
you nailed it for sure. So the next one you got there
It's our bottled and bond.
is your bottled and bond.
And we named that one Barker's Mill because that road that we used to have our driveway, our new one's over here on the highway, but our old driveway went to Barker's Mill Road, so our address was actually Barker's Mill.
Mhm.
And if you drive about 2.5, 3 miles down Barker's Mill Road, you'll actually come upon the old Barker's Mill site.
Okay.
which
The
is-
mill is not still standing,
mill's not
but the
there.
site is there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is a artistic image of a photograph that was taken not long before the mill was taken down, right before World War II, I believe. My brother actually did the artwork because
Nice.
in my family, my siblings, there's 3 of us, and I joke and say that the art skill skipped me. And my brother's got it, my younger sister.
You just
got
have
it.
a different
I have a
skill
different-
set. That's
different
what it
mark.
is.
I mean,
skill with
technically,
making
this is
this.
kind of an art form.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
I'm talking the
artisan.
picture art kind of.
Ah,
the
so
drawing.
you're not the Bob Ross of the
No,
family.
I'm not the Bob Ross.
Okay, okay.
But we
No,
did
but-
watch Bob Ross growing up.
I did too.
We still watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing to turn on when I want to fall asleep at night and I'm awake and I can't. I turn on some Bob Ross and just
I'm just saying, I oil paint from time to time, and I do it Bob Ross's way because there's no other way. That and a glass of bourbon, I'm good to go.
that's right. Yeah.
By the end of the painting, you're just like, look at that, man.
There's all happy accidents. All
I
happy
feel like that's
accidents.
Got a little
some
tree.
Uh-huh.
something about making bourbon. There's always some happy accidents that
Right.
happen in the
That is
process.
actually
Right.
true. You
And
got
then
it.
you're like, man, this mash bill actually turned out a lot better than we thought it was going to. And you just kind of gravitate towards sticking to that.
The worst part about it is the length of time it takes to age, because you've got something you're excited about, it's
You
been
gotta
an
wait.
experiment, and it's like mass production, but wait.
And this one came from 2019.
Yeah, so this is, our Barker's Mill is typically 5 years old.
I'm gonna be responsible and empty out that glass. Hold on just a moment.
So what's the mash bill on that one?
This is one of our few products that is not one mash bill.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's good, that's good.
It is a blend of wheated bourbon, and we have 3 wheated bourbon mash bills. So it's gonna be whatever we flavor-wise dial in for that given batch.
Okay.
But the mash bills range from our standard 20% wheat to, we got one that's 25, and then we've got one that's 40. And typically this is gonna be a blend of the 20 and 25%. So it's an average of 20 to 25% red lentil wheat. Softer, 100 proof. It is still non-chill filtered. That's another thing we don't do with any of our whiskeys. We do not chill filters. So
Okay.
you'll see like these nice little oil drip marks on the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it's the same way out of the barrel. You know, it's got all the wonderful oils and stuff like that.
I've really gotten into the weeded, and this weeded is different than any of the other weededs I've ever had. And I've had a lot of them. It's
It's a
very, very interesting on the palate.
There's a
very
lot of complexity,
intricate.
too.
Yeah, there is.
It's so soft too. It doesn't have a lot of any of the spice and whatnot. It just has those old whiskey flavors going on to me.
It's also another local grain, red winter wheat,
Mm-hmm.
that Christian County is well known for.
I do love that about you guys is you do a lot of local sourcing, and it adds to that craft hometown feel, you know. And a lot of these bigger distilleries that are out there, they reach out far and wide to find what they want for their grains. And I feel that loses a little bit of that luster when you do that, because to me, when you're making something, and especially if it's a craft, you want it to be as localized as you possibly can.
Yep.
And I think you guys kind of carry that flag, if you want to call it that. But it's great. I love everything you got going on for this one too.
This is our whiskey that I say, if you drink this and don't like it, there's really no hope.
Right, and I think it again goes to that whole process you use with the pot still.
Yeah.
With that added complexity that you get out of it, that you don't on these column stills that people are using. So it's really a terrific blend, and it speaks volumes to the way you guys, you know,
Thank you.
tend to your distillate. So
Thank
I love it.
This
It's
is a
great.
pot still you can be proud of.
That's right. Not that other stuff that we've had in the past from that other farm that's far, far away.
Uh-huh.
Well, it does actually help our location. While we're not in bourbon country officially.
Yep.
Well, it's bourbon country now.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got a little route
you've
between
got
you got
what, one,
Casey
two,
Jones,
three.
yourself, and Old Glory. Now you guys got that
Yeah,
little
that
trio.
state
Of,
line whiskey tour, and which we're on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail as well.
Mhm.
Craft tour or bourbon trail now?
It's both, but not.
They're in the process. of doing
They're
some
within
changes.
days or weeks of flipping that to all bourbon trails. So
I mean,
Terrific.
within an hour, there's 1, 2, 3, 4,
oh, there's a bunch.
countless.
Yeah.
Within
Yeah.
an hour.
When you
Yeah.
got, you
when
figured,
we opened in 2009, it was obviously just us here.
I don't know the next distillery. How many miles away was it?
Casey Jones.
No,
they were later.
When you
When
first
we,
opened.
when we first opened,
In
there
09,
was,
the closest one was technically Corsair, which was in Bowling Green,
Okay.
Corsair, yep.
yeah,
and they're no longer there.
right. They went to Nashville.
But
Yep.
other than that, I mean, you had to go to Bardstown area
Yeah.
in central Kentucky.
Mhm.
And now you've got, I think, 7 distilleries in western Kentucky.
Yeah, 'cause
Yep.
you got Nelson's, you got Nashville Barrel Company, but I think they're sourced out of Nashville Barrel Company. But
They're
then
all
you got
I think.
Old Glory,
Mhm.
Leatherwood,
Mhm.
That's all right here on the Tennessee side.
Casey
You got
Jones.
Southern Collective Spirits. We
Yeah.
can go on and on and on.
Green
So
River.
Green River,
Green River.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bard. Yeah.
So it's kind of exploding out,
it has.
which is great that you guys are kind of on the precipice of that before it actually happened. You called it dumb luck earlier.
Yeah.
And more words than that, but I think you guys, like you said, you stumbled upon something terrific before it
We did
really
get lucky.
grew.
We did get lucky. Again, the area itself, with it being mainly farmland. And
And the wood for the Cooper is 30 minutes down the road.
Right.
You
Yeah.
guys really lucked out on
Yeah.
location.
I had no clue. I did not know when I said I want to plant my flag in Christian County that
How
it was
lucky we would
super
be.
unique for
Yeah.
I'm going to get my grain locally and I'm going to get my barrels. The wood is essentially
Right.
local from here. So
It's about as authentic as a pre-prohibition distillery could get, honestly.
except we're not making the barrels because back then a lot of times they made their own
Oh,
barrels.
true, yeah.
I mean, if you was doing that, then it would just
That would
hats
just
off
be
to
too
you.
much. That
Hats
would just
off
be
to
too
you.
much.
Hats off to
The
you.
dark fire is about as close as we're going to get to anything with fire and
Right.
anything like
And I
that.
think that's a unique thing that I haven't seen anyone else doing that with their grain, with the dark fire corn. That's something. How did you guys stumble upon that? Was that like a night where you're sitting around a campfire and you said, "Hey, you know what? I want to try something weird out," or
That's location again.
okay.
Have you ever heard of dark fire tobacco?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So Paul did the exact same process, except the grain, of course, has to have some sort of treatment to it beforehand. But anyway,
It's basically doing the whole malting and kilning process with Scotch, but we're not malting the corn. We're just trying to infuse that smoke flavor in there, and it's all hardwood. It's primarily going to be oak, hickory, maple type of woods
Mm-hmm.
that we're getting as far as the sawdust goes. And it's a slow, cold smoking process. It takes about a week for corn. And corn's unique, whether you're cooking it in mash and you got to cook it for a good period of time to break it down. Same thing with the smoke or smoking process. We've played around with other grains, with malt and wheat, and you can smoke that in a day or so to the same amount that you do corn. But corn takes some time.
and I was going to say real quickly, when I said dark fire tobacco, it's the process. No tobacco at all is
Right.
involved in that.
Right.
Some people hear that and they automatically think, and I want to fix that.
Well, on the tour, when we got a chance to sniff that canister that you had in there, you can pick up a lot of those tobacco notes from that. I assume when we get to taste this,
Mm-hmm.
we'll be able to taste a lot of that flavor profile
Mhm.
that makes it more unique than what other people are producing out there.
This is about the most unique product you're going to taste from us.
And that's something that I don't think anyone else is doing right now.
Corn, no. I don't
So-
believe so.
Is that like a trademark, or is there a patent on that, or is there something that makes it so other people can't do it?
Well, there's a trademark on dark fire
Okay.
that we own, but as far as the process, there's no patent on smoking anything.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to give it a shot, that's fine, and we'll call you out for copying us.
At least give them some credence.
Yeah.
for
What
doing it.
do they call it?
Who does it better?
No,
At least give us some
flattery. What is it?
Oh, imitation is the
imitation.
best
Imitation
form
is
of
the largest
flattery.
form of flattery. right
Yeah,
there.
that's right.
Yeah, but we will call them out. I promise you.
Uh-huh.
That's not a challenge.
I'm just saying, you call them out, you just might give them more publicity.
Yeah, right. The glasses you guys are drinking out of, just kind of sidebar real quick.
Mhm.
Are these available in your gift shop for people that are looking for them?
They are.
Okay, so, and the same with the hat and the shirts that you guys are wearing, you guys have that available?
Most of them.
Most of that?
Well, but maybe not all of them. but
Probably not the one you're wearing.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
hat
one-
you're wearing is
Oh,
unique
yeah,
in
that's-
itself.
West Point.
Yeah, that was my
Since you're alma mater.
alma mater.
So you were an officer,
I was.
11 Bravo.
Yes, and actually, the way I got into the drinking in the Army was through my first unit, which was a cavalry unit.
Okay.
And
Spur ride?
well, I didn't do a spur ride, but I got my gold spurs, which I guess are better than the silver ones, right? But I was at 9/11, or I was at West Point during 9/11.
Okay.
And it was basically a few days after we started class, our third year, or in the traditional sense, junior, but the proper term is Cal year at West Point. And when you start class during your Cal year, at that point, you owe the Army. And so just a few days after that is when our class when 9/11 happened. So we knew exactly what was probably going to happen for us post-graduation. And of course, we invaded Iraq a month or two before I graduated. And so when I was going through some of my initial training, I had the opportunity to change my posting designation to Fort Lewis, which of course, Washington. And it was a National Guard unit that needed officers because they were all getting deployed. And at that time, Guard units were known not to have particularly lieutenants. So I reported to the unit, and it was a brigade cavalry troop, which is a reconnaissance unit, and very, very well put together unit. 85–90% of everyone in the unit was prior service. So it was more active-minded than a typical Guard unit based on my experience. Reported to the unit, and after I talked to my commanding officer and so on and so forth, the executive officer comes over. He's a little bit older. He's in his 30s, prior service. He knows the ropes, you know. He's like, all right, I'll take you and this new lieutenant, this other one, and we're going to go to a bourbon tasting. And that was quite literally my first experience with my unit, was him pulling me over to do a bourbon tasting. And we tasted through 5-6 different bourbons, and I didn't know anything about bourbon other than it was brown and it was supposed to have been from Kentucky. That's all I knew. Tasted through it, enjoyed it, learned a little bit, get deployed, come home, and I have some time to kill. So I said, okay, I'm over here at Fort Lewis. My brother's stationed in Okinawa. It costs $40 for a space-safe flight round trip to Okinawa. I'm going to go visit my brother. Went and saw him. We tried some whiskey together, and that was kind of the culmination of it all, where I'm like, I got into sipping whiskey. I never did shots or anything like that. It was just all about tasting it and enjoying it. And I became fascinated with how the stuff was made. So at that point, I was focusing on how would you make it, how could you make it, and then building the business model for the craft distillery. But yeah, it was the Army. I can blame the Army for this distillery.
Or thank the Army. Anyway.
Right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think the Air Force, for my career progression, you know, if it weren't for my mistakes as a teenager, it would have never led me to the military, which has never led me to where I am today. So everything happens for a reason. And I think your time at West Point that led you into the unit you're at in Washington, to that bourbon tasting, to kind of open your eyes and your palate, so to speak, as to what's out there. And then you created this beautiful landscape that you both enjoy on a daily basis. I'm kind of jealous. You know what I mean? You got all this at your disposal. It's glorious.
It is definitely Western Kentucky in its greatest form. I mean, it's nice rolling hills, farmland everywhere, and we get $1 million sunsets. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that is true. Sunsets out here are amazing.
I bet.
It's not
Especially
tonight,
coming off
probably,
those-
the clouds, but
Coming off those fields, you get the amber waves of grain, you know,
You
experience.
do, and the sun sets right over here by the rick house. So just looking at that beautiful new rick house. And,
Oh yeah, straight Americana.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's really, you know, we've been to a couple distilleries, and that's something that's very special to this side of Kentucky that you don't get in a lot of the other areas. Is you get a lot of that scenery that's kind of unmolested by what you would have for builders, and they bring up all the, you know,
Knock down all the
residential stuff
trees.
that's kind of popping up everywhere. You still kind of salvage that when you're out in this direction of Kentucky. And it's just,
I hope we hold on to it for a while.
oh
Yeah.
man, I hope so too, because it's
Y'all
a
are
gem.
just far enough south to be away from the cicadas, though.
We've had
Oh.
some.
we've had some, not as
We
much.
have had some.
If you actually, we were west of here yesterday and hear them,
Uh-huh.
and we heard them more in Hopkinsville.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But like, it's almost like we're in this bubble where there's not a whole lot of them.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing where I'm at in Cumberland Furnace. There's a pocket there. It's dead silent. But you go up in Hopkinsville, some of those areas,
Yep.
it's deafening.
LBL.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
And I mean, it is the most prominent. I thought when we went up there, I was like, is somebody running running fans or something?
Generator.
generator?
Yeah,
Bunch of leaf blowers?
Yeah, you trying to pinpoint the sound,
What
and
is
you just
going
like,
on up here?
I know that sound, but I just can't quite, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So we're sitting in this place called Cass's Corner.
Yes.
So where did all this?
So if you look behind you on the wall, that's Cass. So Cass was a border collie. It's one thing that I actually loved about Paul when we first got together. The minute that I found out that when he was stationed in Iraq, he rescued a dog and sent it home,
Mm-hmm.
paid for it out of his own pocket, because animals aren't treated really well in
Yep.
some of these countries.
Not at all.
We know that for
So,
sure.
Mhm.
I thought, you know what, somebody that's willing to do that, and I'm a huge animal lover myself. So anyway, sidebar. But Cass is was one of our rescues that he was at the Fort Campbell shelter, and he was next up to be put down. So
Wow.
He was about 30 days overdue.
Oh, wow.
yeah, and the shelter manager knew what a good dog he was, but he was found on Fort Campbell, and he was covered in ticks and fleas. He was so pitiful, but beautiful. So we brought him home. He was the perfect dog, and then we started the distillery. He loved people.
Coming out.
He
Yep.
absolutely loved people. Like, he was one of these dogs where if we have events occasionally and you'd have people lined up, he would greet each person and want to spend time with them. He would just sit and love on them. Say, Cass, I've got a job to do. And he's like, I'm doing my job. You
Mhm.
do your job. I'll take care of my job.
That's awesome.
But that was him. And everybody loved him. So when he passed, he was 7.
15 and a half.
Okay.
Wow.
He lived a ripe old age.
And he was a 75-pound border collie, biggest border collie I've ever seen. But I mean, he was 100% border collie. And,
We had him DNA tested. We
Yeah,
were like,
because
what the
I'm
heck
like,
is
he can't be pure border collie.
Yeah,
So,
especially
sure.
with that like brindle face going on.
But he was, just sweet-natured dog. All work outside, all chill inside.
Yeah.
And we'd have to pull him inside in the middle of the summer because he had a big sheepdog coat. He did have a longer coat, and we need to pull him inside to calm him down because he will play and work himself to exhaustion.
Those two, the blue and the red balls up
Yes,
there,
the
those were
babysitting.
his. You can see in the pictures and stuff.
People brought kids. Cass would quite literally come up and say, "All right,
Here's the ball.
here we
Let's
go."
Uh-huh.
And you'd have kids out in the yard playing with him the whole time that the parents are going on a tour and everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So the
built-in
employ-
babysitter.
Yeah, the employees loved him, and we had gone on one of our marketing trips, and we came back, and our awesome employees had built this entire thing for him,
Wow.
dedicated it, had the prints done, every single piece.
How cool is that? You
That's
guys
pretty
come on to
awesome.
that?
That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
It was.
That's heartwarming for sure.
We've got some good people. That
That's a good Kentucky hug right there.
That's right.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Exactly.
That'd be a good little bottle for you guys.
That's
you know,
right.
Little cast hug or however you want to twist
We'll
that.
have
It
to
might be
credit
coming, you don't
for
know.
that.
Uh-huh.
So we got one more that you've got on that counter there,
Uh-huh.
and that's the one that's the fired
The dark
corn.
fire.
Dark fired bourbon.
corn.
Time to try it.
You want to tell us a bit about what you got in that bottle there?
Yeah, this is the one that we're going to be making a lot more of as time goes by. But of course, we're in the distilling industry and we make our own juice, so there's a few years of delay anytime we change production pipelines or anything. But this is one that we started with day one. Quite literally, we had this and the flagship mash bill both as an unaged white dog. And then we were putting those into barrels for aging. And it's got 33% of the dark fired corn that we smoke here, just like dark fired tobacco, but there's no tobacco in the barn or process. And it's very different from your typical smoked scotch in that your smoked scotch or your peaty scotch has got the peat, it's got the earth flavors and everything else. This is purely from that hardwood smoke. So you're getting a lot of barbecue and campfire kind of influences, along with all the new charred oak aging. And right now we've always done it as the barrel proof expression, the MB Roland barrel proof. So it is pretty full on flavor at 110.6 proof.
It's kind of like imagine if Scotch and bourbon had a baby.
Okay.
And
I
take
like
away
that
the
idea.
the peat.
I don't know now. This might be where you derail me because I'm not a Scotch guy, and Scotch and bourbon having a baby is not a fan thing for me.
Oh, you're gonna like it. I have faith in you.
It smells
So you
like
smell the
bacon,
sweetness.
brisket.
You don't get, it's a lot of the sweetness, the vanillins, the sugars, the molasses, all that good
I
stuff.
feel like,
Oh, I 100%.
Barbecue
I get like I'm smoking meat.
oh man, it's delicious smell for sure. That's dangerous on the
Yeah,
nose.
if you like, what is it, burnt ends?
Burnt ends.
Oh, burnt
That's
ends.
about what this is right here.
I smoked quite a bit on Memorial Weekend, and
And you can't have none.
I can't eat it.
You can't?
So I have alpha gal from Tick Bite, so I can't have wheat, right?
Oh no.
And I used to smoke meats religiously, but it got to the point like my tasters, oh, this is great, and I could just smell it like it's off. It's off. They're like, no, it's perfect. I'm like, shut your face, it's off. Like I can smell it and tell there's something off in the seasoning. No, it's perfect. So I just quit doing it. So like once or twice a year now I'll smoke, and that's yeah.
I could just smell this.
Smell it.
I
Nice.
know. It just smells so good to me.
It's like campfire mixed with brisket, mixed with ribs, mixed
Yeah.
with
Oh, this is
like
100%
smoked
how my
chicken,
clothes
like-
smelled the morning after I spent 18 hours smoking meat.
like-
And I will say, if you're ever in this area around August, September timeframe, and
Just
they are
drive
dark
around.
fire in those that
And that
tobacco in those
tobacco.
barns.
I was gonna say that's the last thing I pick up is that tobacco scent. But everything else prior, it's just
Why do you
And it-
try it?
But it's coming from that dark, the smoked wood process.
Mhm.
But if you're ever in this area, definitely take a drive out in the country and smell some of those scents.
Late August.
FYI, if the barn is smoking, it is not on fire
That is
around
exactly
here.
right.
It is not on fire
Do not
around
call
here.
They move to this
911.
area, they have no idea, and they
Yep.
call the fire chief, and they're like,
Is it smoking or burning?
right,
Yeah.
there's a distinction there.
Yeah.
Like you
Do
be
you
driving
see
out
flames?
48, and there'll be signs on the road next to barns like, if it's smoking, it is not on fire.
Exactly. Yes.
That is fire. That is so good. Such a unique flavor. It's just, you get like, people that like cigars,
Mm-hmm.
you get a bit of that earthy tobacco note. You get that wood-fired, charred chicken brisket taste in there. You get some like sweet savoriness. It's just, there's so much going on in there.
It really is. And you just want a little bit of a
Ah.
sip to pull out those
I
notes.
feel like
because-
if I could just soak that into the meat before you cook it,
yeah.
like a steak, man.
We
That's-
have some folks that make rubs.
This
Like-
would be like liquid smoke without being
I was
liquid
about to
smoke.
say,
yeah.
it's
Right.
a lot like that.
And even the
The mesquiteness.
unaged version, we call it black dog, obviously,
Yeah.
instead of white dog. And it's basically the type of thing that you could tell anyone on the planet this is mezcal, and they drink it and they 100% believe you because it's got the smoke, it's got some spice from the rye in there,
Mhm.
so it kind of gets you that little bit of a tequila-y
It does.
mezcal flavor. But on the aged version, it's just all that wood sugar, vanilla, and heaviness along with the smoke.
Yeah, I was gonna say I get like a hickory, tiny amount of applewood mesquite. It's interesting, like the flavors. Like if you enjoy barbecue, like you can pull every single bit of barbecue flavors out of that.
Easy.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's incredible. It's really good.
Thank you.
So
So does the non-smoky guy like it? Right.
non-Scotch guy.
Non-Scotch guy.
Non-Scotch guy? So
I'm a barbecue guy, so I'm loving this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, there's-
awesome.
This is
When?
not Scotchy to me. This is barbecue.
Yeah,
in
this
a-
is
in a
barbecue
jug.
heaven in a
Yeah.
bottle.
Yeah.
So people that want something that tastes like you were at a barbecue or you smell like you left a barbecue, That's what this is in a liquid form.
We call it Christian County in a bottle.
Okay.
Because the smoking, the dark fired is also indicative of right here. And it's the local grain. And
So you get some
of course, the
leather
whiskey.
notes too.
Yeah.
I didn't get any leather at all.
You didn't get any leather?
Everything else is just so like amazing.
Over,
Like
yeah.
it just, I probably have to go back for it.
See,
This is
to
one-
me, it's like, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, this is one you unfortunately need a couple pours to really
This
Oh,
one is,
no, that
I feel
sounds
like
terrible.
multiple times over the course of, a couple of months, you'll come back and revisit different flavors,
Mhm.
different smells.
Yeah, it's just so complex. There's just so much. Like
Mm-hmm.
the more you spend time with it, the more I could see that there would be a leather note, like a
It's got
fresh saddle.
That old general store, for me, what it reminds me of, there used to be a store at Port Royal, the state park, and it was literally an old general store. It had been there since Moby Dick was a minnow. And you know how you go in somewhere,
That was a shirt.
you know, when you go in somewhere and it's one of those old wood floors and it's just soaked up that history and all the
Uh-huh.
smells. That's what this reminds me of, which actually a lot of our bourbons and stuff remind me of that.
And I think that's attributes to the Kelvin cooperage that you guys use, which has
I think
been
that definitely
fantastic
helps.
on your finishing, the way that just those flavors from that cooperage.
wood fired barrels. I think I don't have any science behind it other than practical thought and application, but
And years of use.
yeah, the wood fired barrels I think help a lot
Yeah,
for making our flavor the way that it is.
and you guys use the Char 4,
Right.
Mhm.
which has a lot more cracks and allows for deeper seepage into that wood, which I think also, you use it for all of your.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no variation between, it's just all Char number 4. The only difference is what you put in the mash and how long you let it sit.
Or if it's in a used barrel,
Okay.
if like the corn
The
whiskey.
corn whiskey.
The corn whiskey, right. Which we did that one earlier when we were in the Rick House. Everything you guys produced so far has been fantastic.
One thing that has really, I think, served us well is making different things. And when we started, I always wanted to do that. I didn't want to just make a bourbon or 2 bourbons or something. We wanted to have different products, rye, corn whiskey, etc. And making the different products over the years and continuing to kind of do that really helps us learn more and be sharper overall. You know, the agave, I think, helps us that way, which is essentially a tequila product that we make, but it's a different process compared to making whiskey.
Okay.
I've made rum before, and we might make more down the road, and it's more like making rum, actually.
Is that the Kentucky Azul, the tequila?
That's right.
Mhm.
How did you guys decide to branch into making those various spirits? Was that just a salvage your heads and tails, or is there's a methodology behind creating those other spirits, or?
Depends on the product. In the agave, part of it was selfish because to age a reposado, you're talking 6 to 12 months, and we're used to whiskey, which is years. So I looked at that as a product that we could age in used barrels, and frankly, knowing what I know about how the process works for a lot of other brands, we're dumping barrels and then turning them back up and refilling them. They're wet barrels as opposed to barrels that are dried and taken apart, sent overseas or anything like that. So you get a lot of distinct character from the bourbon. And so it's another way to kind of, represent our bourbon heavily with that particular product. And again, it takes 6 months is like, oh, that's no time.
That's tomorrow.
That's a blink.
In our
Yeah.
world.
In the
Right.
urban world, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of them end up being fun projects. Here's a perfect one, the pink lemonade. And again, this has nothing to do with whiskey or anything like that, but you try different flavors and we thought the pink lemonade was going to be seasonal. And we had customers threaten us. You
Oh, really?
can't make that seasonal, that stuff's delicious. My wife is very happy with this, which
Oh,
means
okay.
I'm happy. Continue making it.
Right.
All right, so that's how you came along with some of the moonshines and various flavors. It's just
Playing with it.
playing around and
Yeah.
Happy wife, happy life.
yeah, all right.
Perfect philosophy. It carried over into this industry.
Good,
Have
you.
you considered, and I haven't seen it back there, for finished bourbons? Do you offer finished bourbons that are like influenced by wine or by other spirits like rum or cognac or
We haven't done a whole lot with other spirits. We have done brandy finished
okay?
because we'll make typically we'll make one batch of brandy a year with a local gentleman that has a vineyard, and he'll bring us the grapes and everything, and then we'll distill it. But we finished some bourbon in some brandy barrels that we had aged for brandy. But most of our finished goods at this point are beer finished with some local breweries that we've been working with, giving them a barrel, let them age their beer in, and then get it back. And then we finish the bourbon or the whiskey. We've got a Goza finished corn
Is the
whiskey.
porter back there?
Ooh, I-
No, but we can do let's do the porter
The
finish.
porter finish?
That's a good one.
If you guys didn't notice that we've got these Aged in Ore glasses that we brought with us, something we were discussing with Paul because you guys are looking to maybe add to your merchandise selection, but they come in these cute little carry cases. Also has a little to-go
Cute.
container that has a seal on it so they don't leak.
And you're talking to the right person right now because she is the
Yeah.
And so what we've
Merchandising
done in the
queen.
past when we go on these tastings is we bring these along, and if
Mhm.
there's something we want to share, sometimes we'll bring something to share. We didn't bring anything to share this time because we assumed that you guys didn't want to drink somebody else's juice. But
We're open.
you can always ask on their website to put your logo on it, so they will send it to you pre-made with the logo, or if you have somebody that's local that can put your logo on them, they do that too. We don't have any affiliation with them, we just really like their product.
That's the good endorsement right there.
Maybe one day they'll add us as an affiliate, or a brand ambassador, but for now, we love what they produce.
They
And
are cool, and look, did you add the clamp on the
I
side?
added the
He
carabiner
added
Okay, I was
too.
about to
he
say.
did that.
Yeah,
But
they-
they've got this little strap for it.
Yes,
they got the built-in strap for it, and then they've got these flight test kits they make too that have little grommets on them.
Those are
Those are
absolutely
handy because when we're doing our bourbon reviews, and sometimes we'll do flights of bourbons like that, you can do your little tastings and it's got A, B, C, D.
Oh, that's
So you can
handy.
do a blind tasting even, which is great. So like if you guys were doing barrel picks and you wanted to do blind picks for your customers that are doing that, you can have those and then show them like you pour it in A, B, C, D, and then they'd be like, yeah, I like A or I like C or whatever, however they want to rank.
What's the company name?
Aged in Ore.
Aged in Ore.
Yeah, my favorite thing about the flights is the rubber grommets because I can turn them upside down and they're not gonna.
Yeah, and you can hang them on the wall.
Yeah.
It comes in a nice, sturdy, like I think it's aluminum.
It's aluminum,
Whatever the-
but it
the
looks like it's
carrying
kind of
thing
powder
is.
coated aluminum.
It's sturdy,
Okay.
and they've got another thing that I bought too. It's a 4-pack of those little
Yep, travel case
vials.
for
It's
the-
a travel case, so you
The
can bring
handshakes.
4 different types of bourbons.
Mhm.
So basically, if we do this and that plus that 4, that's 6 bourbons that we can bring on a trip to like when we're going to a buddy's house and we want to
That's
Taste different
nice,
things.
taste
yeah.
different
Mhm.
stuff and like, hey, we'll bring 6 different flavors for you guys to try.
You don't have to pack up
You don't
your
have to pack
entire
6
library of
bottles, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
nice.
So it's pretty incredible what they're doing over there, and we just like it. So,
Yeah. that's
and then the other things we brought.
Oh yeah, so definitely have to after this one. We're gonna have y'all try one of your bourbons.
good. One of our bourbons.
Yeah. Yeah.
How old is it?
One of your
from
higher
Roland?
proof bourbons for sure.
Oh yeah.
So this company's called the Whiskey Grail, and we've been working with them now for about a month, and they've been so kind as to send us their products with the distillers that we go to with their logo on it,
That is so
as
cool.
well as ours.
Oh, there's one for each of you,
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
And so
And it's a mini
and it
bottle almost.
has
exactly. So
Yes.
their claim is that it's a vessel that basically what your bourbon is aged in. It speaks to it, I think, on that card.
Yes. Yes.
That
No
is
scrubbing.
so cool. And look, it's co-branded.
Uh huh.
That is so neat.
That way you can remember who brought you.
Thank you so much.
Unparalleled experience with a unique flavor.
Yeah, so it's supposed to basically take off that ethanol note that you would get initially, and you don't have to kind of sit there and wait for it to kind of air out.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get into enjoying. You can get right into enjoying your beverage with those cups.
That's
So-
really cool.
This is high proof.
There you go.
All right, here we go.
Let's see what happens.
I thought you meant you had brought one of our previous older bourbons.
Mm-mm. No,
No, it's
ma'am.
112 proof.
Should I have washed the glass beforehand?
No, the whiskey does that for you.
Yeah.
That's right. That sterilizes.
Uh-huh. You're good to
We
go.
know that about.
I mean, because when you wash it, they literally say cold water with soap.
Yeah, so don't use hot water.
It actually does soften it a little bit, I think.
It actually does.
It's amazing how.
Isn't that
That is
crazy?
brilliant.
Uh-huh.
That's what when we first tried that. I think I did.
So now we can just drink barrel proof bourbon in this.
I forget what I put in the first
I mean,
one, but
you
then we
still
did
get what? Wait, at least what we noticed.
138 proof on
Yeah.
another one, and I was like, what?
You get
I was
the full
floored.
flavor of the bourbon without all the ethanol on the
Right.
upfront. It softens it pretty well.
So if you're looking to
This is
add
smart.
something neat to your, collection of
Absolutely.
things,
That's
those
so
guys will be more than happy to hook you up.
I guess they've got contact information
Yes,
on the
that's on the
card.
card.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
100%.
And I can always email Paul, the actual Alex, or Adam, and
Adam.
Jim,
John.
John. I'm butchering their names. Sorry, guys.
Where are they based out of, John?
Georgia.
Okay.
They're real close to Fort Benning area.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
That
So
is
they're in
really
a prime
cool.
spot. They're
Yeah.
close. They're close.
Statesboro.
Is it Statesboro?
They're closer to Savannah.
And seeing if you drop it, you don't have
But
to
yeah.
worry about breaking anything.
Yeah. But I just thought it was a clever thing because it's, you're drinking your bourbon out of a vessel that basically your bourbon came out of.
That's right.
So this is what gets me though. So turn your glass around and look at the bourbon symbol. Turn your glass around and look at the bourbon symbol on the other side.
Oh,
And
because
look
the way
at the
the wood,
difference.
the
So
wood
look at
grain.
Look at the wood grain.
Oh, yeah.
There's no
absolutely.
two the same, right?
Right.
It's
of
just-
course.
So that got me kind of tickled.
Yeah. It's just like being in a barrel.
Uh-huh.
You never have the same pattern. It's like snowflakes that are
Mhm.
different every time.
Very cool. Thank you, guys.
No, absolutely. We figured, you're sharing something cool with us. We figured we'd share something cool with you. And we've got some other gifts that we've got
Uh-huh.
Very
also
cool.
for you
Man,
guys
I'm not
while
used
we're
to
here.
I was about to say.
Alright.
Y'all were
So-
supposed to come with gifts.
We weren't sure on your size,
So
and we didn't want to be offensive.
yeah.
So,
So
we brought a medium and
there's
a
a
large.
large and a medium.
That's actually perfect.
So this is
Which
a
one?
medium.
And that's the large.
I'm
This
the
is
medium.
large.
Okay.
So
Perfect. And then
Awesome. Awesome.
um
Thank you so much.
we got some hats for you all.
Very cool.
So depending on what color you want,
I want the green.
there you go.
It goes with the shirt.
That's all right.
See?
Thank y'all. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
honestly did not have to do this at all.
Well, you didn't have to have us here either. So
Exactly.
we're kind of
That's
we're
so awesome.
paying it forward or paying it back or both.
I mean, it's not like it's not free advertising for us if you wear it.
Yeah.
And we will wear that actually. So we've got a couple of folks that have
Give me
even
the step.
other distilleries. It's like, everybody's in the industry trying to make a living.
That's right.
And we're happy to support all of you. So
So back to this that you poured us. This was a unique
Porter finish.
porter finish, which I could get the porter in this. It's like bacon. I think when I think of porter, I think of like bacon, baked beans.
Baked beans is a good description, I think, for porter.
I also
Yeah.
think coffee sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Get those notes.
Yeah.
To get porter is a stout with a little baked beans in it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And so, which is a bad experiment we used to do when I was in the military. When we would go to some of these establishments, we would, if you left the table first to go to the bathroom, we would put stuff in your beer. And depending on the establishment we were in, that's what would go in your beer. Sometimes it's French fries, sometimes it's ketchup, sometimes it's Heinz 57 sauce.
Oh,
Sometimes
you're not mixing drinks. You're actually.
I thought you were
Put in-
putting vodka and stuff in
No,
No, we
there.
were
no.
putting whatever's on the table. And sometimes we would be at a barbecue joint, you get baked beans in your beer, and you get some meat floating in there, hot dogs or whatever. And so mistakenly, I think we created something unique because it messed with our flavor profiles. And when you go do these tastings at different places, you're like, you know, this reminds me of, it's like, this one time we were in Florida in Destin, and you remember when we put that
Baked beans
baked
in
beans
beer.
It tastes like Coors, but with Coors and baked beans. So I think, you know, we just kind of mistakenly grew our palates by doing that.
Yeah, I'm kind of favoring the almost like a red eye gravy.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Because it's got the coffee. Yeah.
And then you got the ham drippings,
Yep.
the coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally red eye gravy.
I can get that.
Mhm.
Like
I mean, it goes right along with your beans and your.
Right.
Because when you make baked beans, you're putting pork in it. So,
Uh-huh.
True.
but it's
It is tasty.
Y'all are making me want to cook a bunch of barbecue.
I'm just saying, it's pretty close to red eye gravy in a bottle
You could
right
start
there.
that on the side while you're
Right.
Right,
you open it
exactly.
side kitchen between, you turn
Man.
that Red Barn into a
We
A
might be talking
smokehouse?
about that right now. We don't know.
Couple
Red
of
eye
plans.
gravy. Mm-hmm.
Are there things that you guys have coming that people should be aware of and pay attention to that they're on the horizon?
Well, yes, but it's not a thing until it happens, I guess
Okay.
is the best way to say it. I mean, we've got a lot of product and blends in the works, but speaking from experience, a lot of this takes time and takes a minute to get all together. And so we don't like to put anything out till we're 100% certain it's going to be a real thing.
So no cart before the horse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
COVID changed a lot of that. I'm sure
makes sense.
everybody experienced a change, and I think it's still occurring. That's change is not finished. Our business has not been the same as far as on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So you're constantly pivoting, and we got some stuff we're excited about. We want to make sure it's the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you guys, when you do your releases, is it a seasonal release where you try to time it towards the fall, or is there a specific time of year that you like to release your products when you have a new release of a flavor?
It's more about bottlings of dark fired bourbon and Barker's Mill and a few other products that we don't always have the volume that you'd like to have to support everyone that wants it. And time wise, it's timed for us, but not necessarily around one time of the year.
Okay.
So that's going to be springtime, fall time for the most part. But we're talking about something for next summer, which is a year from now. So that would be next, it's a lot of years involved with a
Well,
lot of
and
the
part
things
of
we
it too
plan.
is you start thinking the aging season, especially around here in this area, we're in a little bit more of a warmer climate than in northern and central Kentucky. So those seasons are pretty drastic on our aging warehouse. You get the best aging, obviously, in your summertime. So we do tend to put out, if it's going to be something we've been planning on, it does tend to be after the end of the summer or something like that.
Fall or so.
Mhm.
Fall is the best time to do anything like that because you are getting the best aged example of everything with the summertime temperatures.
That makes sense. I think a lot of places seasonally release in the fall just because you have the Kentucky Bourbon Festival that's going on around then.
And Bourbon Heritage Month is in
And,
September.
yeah, so you have that opportunity to really hit a big market at the one spot. Now, are you guys planning on being at the Kentucky Bourbon Fest this year, or?
No,
Not this year.
they did not ask us.
Oh, okay.
No, it actually is open for everyone. We're just, with us being so far in Western Kentucky and the amount of staff that we would have to carry, plus finding hotels,
Yeah.
it's a
You're
little bit
fighting
of
for
a
the same
juggle.
hotels everyone else is.
Yeah.
100%, I agree.
It's a little bit harder for us, so.
Yeah, if we were like a little bit closer, we could figure a way to shift it the right way, but with people, but
Yeah.
it's a bit of a logistical nightmare for us to
Yeah.
do that and do it the right way.
Are there things that are unique solely to your distillery that you don't see in other distilleries? Like we obviously see the influence of the tobacco with the dark fire corn, is there other things that you guys kind of highlight about MB Roland that no one else is doing right now, or?
Well, we've never sourced a drop of whiskey for any of our own whiskey.
Okay.
And that's been something since day one that we have been adamant about, especially when you're talking the style of whiskey. You can't source white corn, pot distilled bourbon unless you're getting it from MB Roland. But that's probably the biggest thing. The other thing is, I
Grains.
believe we're the only distillery named after a woman. Pretty sure.
Direct.
Yep.
Maybe directly.
Any
but
distillery
there's-
named completely after a woman.
I think.
I mean, it is your full name.
It is.
So, I mean, technically, I think you might be right.
Yeah, I don't think there are any other.
I mean, there's plenty of last names out there, but not the whole shebang.
like there are other distilleries that have females that are either running it or
Yeah.
part of it.
tons
But,
of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
but as far as one being named strictly after a female, I think that is unique for sure.
That's pretty special.
And in the production side, or should I say I guess product development side, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of, including you, very important women involved in the process.
Well, we've got a lot of veterans
Mhm.
right here by Fort Campbell. Quite a few of our staff are made up of former Army gentlemen, and actually Marines and Air Force. I think.
Olivia was Navy.
Navy, okay.
Did you say Marines?
We had a Marine here.
Well, they're Department of the Navy. It's kind of the same.
I mean, true. I was just going to ask how the crayons in the distilling process went.
That's where the wax comes in for the casks that
There
get
you
cracked.
go.
You know?
Mhm.
But definitely the grains. I mean, we do source all local grains. And most of them are grown within 50 to 100 miles of the distillery. So,
Most within 10 miles. Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that on the website where it talks about the grain to glass
Mhm.
concept, which you guys do hold true to that, which is amazing, and it tastes. It's just very unique. It's got its own story. Every glass you pour, it's just something
it is
new.
different.
And I
So-
love
And,
that.
if you're going to open a distillery, why do you want to do something that everybody else is doing?
Right.
You know?
Buy
Yeah.
the same juice that everyone else is buying if they're sourcing a brand.
Right.
Wanted to do something very different.
When you guys did the Barker Mill, did you get any backlash? I had asked Paul earlier if his influence on bourbons dictated what the mash bills were. How much influence do you have on the mash bills here, and what are your influences?
Actually, mine is not quite so much on that, unless we're talking through some processes or whatever. I would say I'm more on the finishing side. More on the
Blending, tasting.
on the not finished bourbon, but
Okay.
yes, when I'm putting it into the bottle, that's my role when it comes to the actual process.
So you have more of a keen sense of smell and taste.
I hope I do.
Well, I mean, it comes through in a
I
lot of your
think I
products.
do.
Right.
I think I do. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, I'm not the one who put all of these batches together. I'm just in overcharge of all of that. Gretchen is our Gretchen Wessels. She is the young lady who puts a lot of this stuff that you're tasting now together, and she's done a great job for us.
Okay,
She's the spigot on the end of the warehouse.
love that.
Controls how it flows and what it is. It's a very unique job, even for here. And her background, she's always been passionate about spirits and whiskey and stuff, but she came here and she's worked almost every job here, including distilling. So between that and her palate capabilities, it was kind of a natural fit for that role.
Definitely.
What's something you're most excited about for the future for this place?
For us, to be honest with you, I feel like we're in a good place from a being real to ourselves and size-wise, we have a lot of potential in a lot of ways. We're not too big, we're not too small, and everything we've
For
done.
us,
Yeah,
not too
for
small.
us.
A lot of other people will be like,
Oh, yeah,
so
y'all-
tiny.
Mhm.
But everything's been organic about us as far as our growth for the most part. So if we were monumentally larger than we are, I'd feel a little bit more responsibility or concern maybe, especially as the market develops and evolves over the next few years. But the initial plan when we started this was no one is going to go through every little step that we're doing to make the unique style of bourbon and whiskey that we do. No one's going to do the localized grain, the cooperage that is wood fired, the low barrel entry proof, non-chill filtered. And the real reason is because when you start doing math as a distiller, you're doing it based on alcohol input and bottle output.
Right.
And when you're pulling everything out of the barrel at barrel proof and you're putting it in at a low barrel entry proof, you're going to have less bottles whenever you dump barrels. And so we understand that. We get a much lower yield on our barrels compared to folks that are watering it down, but we feel like we make a very unique product that will stand up over time, whether it's craft distilling or just bourbon and whiskey in general, because again, I don't think anyone's going to really match or do all of the things that we're doing to try to make ours unique.
So I've seen y'all in the Class 6 and other local liquor stores and whatnot. How far out are y'all as far as branched out at this point? And if you're not in somebody's area, can they go online to find your stuff and order it?
Mhm.
We are mostly regional, Kentucky, a little bit of Missouri, Illinois, a little bit of Tennessee on, this part of Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and a few other markets not as heavily saturated because we are small. We don't have a huge volume to feed a bunch of markets. And if they can't get it in their individual state or market, they can go on mbroland.com and potentially, if you're military, you can get it to a military base, shipped to a military establishment, post base,
I
whatever,
think you can also go to a UPS store. Yeah.
at a military post, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But if you are in whatever state, easy way to explain that is we're still working on liquor shipping laws in the grand scheme of things, but I think we can ship to about 35 states or something like that. Yeah, so
Okay.
just unfortunately, if you're in those 15, I can't help you. You need to get your state to change their laws.
Or come visit us.
Or come
Huh?
visit
Come
us.
visit us.
Yes.
Come
It's
visit.
much more fun. You taste through everything.
I agree. I think
That's
there's
fair.
something about visiting an actual distillery,
Mhm.
that experience that you get that you don't get when you're in a store.
Well, it
100%.
gives you an understanding more of, just like I was explaining about the white corn, you're getting that intentionally. If you don't visit and don't hear our story and don't know what grains we're using, then you're thinking, oh, well, they really didn't make an effort into that bourbon. Yeah, we did. We put a lot of effort into that bourbon.
Yeah, that's part of your history here is that it's all intentional. Nothing's just accidental. Sometimes you might have an accident,
but
Almost everything that you've done is very intentional, from
very
the
planned.
bottle you selected to the grains that you're using,
Mhm.
the labels to wherever you're, putting it on the shelves. It's all very intentional. Again, it goes right back to that grain to glass concept
Mhm.
where it's just
Yep.
a family, hometown, down on the farm type atmosphere from start to finish.
You got it.
And it's great.
We like it that way.
Do you guys have anything social media wise that people can find you?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram, X. We haven't branched out into many of the new socials as yet. I can only keep up with so many. And
Right.
Laura Lee, who is over social media marketing, she does so much here. She handles a lot of that, and I think if I added too much on top of that, she's probably going to do mean things to me. I've decided that we're going to stop where we are.
Right.
Yep, I've got mine.
All right.
So we thank you guys for having us here. We appreciate you. Everybody should drink your favorite drink. If it's not bourbon, it should be. Until next time.
Get sauced.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Everybody.
I like cheer to you.
You do.